Growing up, I was the second oldest in a family of 5, and the next youngest under me was probably about 10 years. And so when my mom had my sister Caitlin, and then my brother Kenny a year later, and then my sister Abby a few years later, me and my older sister Connie had to step up in a lot of ways to help kind of raise them and babysit. And then my brother Kenny had multiple issues with cerebral palsy, he had to have a stent put in his brain, and so my mom was always at the hospital with him, and so she leaned on my sister and I to kind of help take care of the other two, and then obviously having a child that's in the hospital, things were financially tight. So from an early age, we had to grow up pretty quickly, I think, emotionally, and then once we started getting jobs around 16, financially as well, because my mom had a lot of responsibility. She's basically a single parent, and she's just a nursing assistant, so you don't make a ton of money. So we had to pay for things like our clothes, any food we wanted outside of what she bought for the house, our cell phones, our car insurance, paid for our vehicles. And when I finally went to college, I ended up paying for that out of pocket as well. And so trying to handle being financially responsible for yourself at an early age and emotionally responsible and controlling the decisions that you make, it was kind of hard, especially because I didn't have a great relationship with God. I wasn't a strong believer in God. Like I knew God existed, but I didn't really follow it at all, and so I made a lot of stupid, pointless choices that I didn't really need to make, and had I known God back then, my life might have been a little smoother. But looking back on it now, I can see where God opened and closed doors and really shaped kind of how my story played out, and it took me a little longer to do some things than it would have had I done them right the first time, but my life wouldn't be the same if I hadn't followed those things through. Growing up, having to be kind of financially responsible for yourself once we had a job, and my mom not having a ton of money, there was a lot of jealousy that went on. You see kids coming in with Mustangs that their parents bought them, and they crash up every other week and get fixed, or new phones, new iPods, new clothes. We didn't really get a lot of that stuff because we couldn't afford it, and so yeah, there's a lot of, like I said, resentment and jealousy, and it took me a while not to blame my mom for the situation that we were in, because really she was just dealt the card she was dealt, and she did the best that she could, and I appreciate that more now than I used to. And some of the positives of having to grow up that early taught me about being responsible with money. If there was something that I wanted, I had to save for it. I had to pay for it on my own. I just feel like there was a higher level of maturity that I had that most kids my age didn't, because I just was kind of forced into it. So if I was to give any advice, I would say that if you are going through that, and you do have to kind of grow up quicker than you should, been there, it gets better, and there are a ton of advantages to having that happen and growing up. I know it can be hard sometimes because you just want to, you want to be a kid, or you want to have the same life that everybody else has, but God can really shape you through that, and you end up much better on the other side because of it. And if if this doesn't pertain to you, and this doesn't click with you, just know that you're blessed, and be thankful to God for the things that He gives you, because not everybody lives that life.
I'm found in who you are. I'm laying down my life to worship you. For you, I'm worthy of.
Hi, I'm James Barry, and this is my story.
Everything.